Hello friends, here we are, video number 1. Gonna break down a song for you, talk a little bit about the mix and some of the things going on in the song. And for our first song, we have one that I wrote and recorded here in my home studio. Did everything except for the drums, and we'll talk about who did those and how those came about. Is a song called Not Like I Used To for a project called The Frozen Ocean, and it's exciting because it's the first song that I released in the last 5 years. So this will be fun for me. I hope it's interesting to you. Let's dive in. Here's a little bit of the intro. Okay, so the song started with this little loop here. And that was a loop that I found from a program from Output called Arcade. And it's just a little acoustic loop that I found and I like the sound of. And I put a little bit of delay on it from old friend Valhalla Delay, and without the delay it sounds like this. Not very different with it. One of my favorite things about this delay is this, and you can hear what it does when I turn it up. It's really, really cool. So I like the sound of that. And so that's how the song started, was with that loop. And I was actually writing, I was in a writing session with an artist I've worked with, a guy named Jason Ingrasselli. And I wrote this actually originally for him, but really liked it and later asked if I could use it for my song. And he graciously agreed. And so it started with that. But the focus of this song, and I think the heart of this song, is the drums. So let's listen to those. The drums were done by a guy named Dan Bailey, and he's a guy I followed on Instagram. He plays with Father John Misty, and just incredible, incredible drummer, great engineer. And so I asked him to play on this song, and he just knocked it out of the park. Listen to these drums. Yeah, those are just, that's ridiculous. So I didn't do a lot to these drums. Let me take all the plugins off that I put on here so you can listen to what he sent me. Totally dry. And so this is what I got. That's pretty good. That is pretty good. So here's what I'm doing on the tracks here. I'm using this guy from Plugin Alliance. It's just an SSL 4000E, and I'm using it on all the tracks. And it's just a little bit of carving out on the tracks and a little bit of EQ. Here's what the kick sounds like, the kick in and kick out. So here's the kick. So you got the kick in, more attack to it, the kick out, all the low end thump. I don't know if it's a sub kick or if he's using something like a condenser. It sounds more like a sub kick to me. And then we got our overheads, which I know are Coles 4038s which sound like this. Just a little bit of filtering on that. We got our room mics. We got a mono mic, which I'm using the compressor here to kind of squeeze that a little bit. Then we got our snare. And then our toms. And so on the drum bus, I have another instance of this guy, the Focusrite console channel strip thing, which sounds really great. And let's see what this is doing. So this is with it, without it. Just controlling it a little bit. Then I have the 2500, and then ending with this guy that I use a lot. It sounds, just makes everything sound better. Without it, with it. So I'm not really doing a ton, just a little bit of EQ, a little bit of compression, but I am sending the snare top and the kick in to a bus, which goes to a SansAmp, which this is, I think, kind of a Chad Blake thing that he likes to do. It's just this old SansAmp plugin, and then I'm compressing it. So that, you can, we'll solo this. Here's the... And I'm sending a couple of things to the SansAmp. And I'll just boost it up. It's just adding a little bit of saturation and EQ. That's a cool thing that the SansAmp does. So the drums are really, for me, like the life and the energy of this song. And they were just so much fun to play to. He also sent some percussion tracks. They sound like this. Nothing crazy, a couple shakers and a tambourine. And the bass, which was my P bass that had flat wounds on it. I'll play the drums and the bass together. I really wanted to go for more of kind of a vintage thing with the bass. And so here's the hook with the bass and the drums. Bass by itself. So you can hear probably this guy. What I like to do sometimes with bass is to give it some width. So the way that I usually do that is I send it to this guy, Microshift, which I think is based on like an Eventide kind of pitch shifter thing. And so I have this stereo instance of this, and I'm sending the bass to it, and this is what it does without it. So you can hear that. That's it turned really loud. And I really like what that does to give the bass a little bit more size. And then here, Melodyne, of course, nothing bothers me more than bass that's out of tune. And so I usually will Melodyne bass. This guy, again, Plugin Alliance, you'll see a lot of these. Love the sound of this. This is their Ampeg flip top, which sounds great. Some compression. Old C4, which is just grabbing the low notes, which you can see here. Those, you know, if I play certain low notes a little bit harder, sometimes those can jump out. And then L7, just doing a little bit of limiting. So with the drums, percussion. Yeah, so that feels good. I like the sound of that. One of my favorite things on this track, though, was the acoustic. So acoustic, I was kind of an anti-DI acoustic guy for a long time. Just hated the way it sounded. But what I kind of had a light bulb moment on this song because I recorded. I think because it was just in a writing session, I was going as fast as I can to get stuff recorded. I plugged the guitar into my LA 610, which is my tube preamp, and I just kind of cranked it, and I freaking love the sound of it. And so here are two acoustic tracks through the LA 610. Yeah, I just really, really, really like the sound of that. And you could even hear a little bit of the bleed because I was sitting here, I was playing, and the sound was coming through the speakers, and they're probably bleeding into the internal pickup in the guitar. And so on these acoustic tracks, I have this. This is probably my favorite compressor for acoustic right now from UBK. I love this tone control, and I just really like the sound of compressed acoustic guitars. And so here, that's doing some work there. And then the CQ, I've had this for a while, but I got turned on to it from a video that I saw, a mixer that I really like who used this a lot, and so I have this on both the acoustic and then a little bit of limiting. So without all that, this is just what it sounded like coming off the preamp. With compression, with EQ, with limiting. Yeah, so I really, really like the sound of that acoustic, and with the drums and the bass, sounds like this. Putting the loop. Yeah, so that was kind of the vibe that I had. And I do have a piano in here. This is from Keyscape. And I got this a couple months ago and just fell in love with it. It just sounds so, so good. And I've been using the upright. This is probably my favorite, the Dark Indie. This has got so much character to it. Love the sound of that. And you can see I'm filtering out. I don't want too much of the low end of the piano to compete with the kick or the bass. So I'm filtering out some of the low and the high end to sit in with the acoustic tracks and the drum and the bass. So together with that, that sounds like this. I also have a Rhodes in here, which I think is also from Keyscape. It's just playing the same exact part together. Just adds a little bit of movement to it. And then so slide guitar. So I did not play the slide guitar. Again, I got this from it was a loop from output from the Nashville player pack, whatever you call it, and it sounds like this. Yep. So there's that. And then I'm sending it to reverb chamber well, it was title chamber. It's actually it's a plate. So it's just this plate. I love the sound of this plugin. I didn't really mess around with the low cut at all. And this is the main reverb for the whole song. There's really only 3 effects. There's the plate, there's a delay, Echo Boy on the Echoplex. That's kind of a standby for me. And then this micro shift. So those are really the main effects for all 3 songs. And so the slide was really cool, and it added a little bit more of that kind of Americana, folky vibe that I was looking for on this song. With the acoustics, let's see if this plays back. And there was some weird tuning stuff on this for some reason, and so I did throw it through Melodyne and tuned it, and then I'm just doing some filtering of the low end and low mids. And then the lead guitar, there's 3 elements to the lead guitar. There's the main part, which comes in here. It sounds like this. There's a mandolin. Together. Guitars for me, I tend to obsess over the like the gain staging of the amp, and I do have amps here in the studio that I sometimes will mic up, but I've really been liking this plugin. It's the Fender Collection Amplitube, and let me just take off the effects. So again, just any stray, tuning stuff I'm catching there. Compressor going into the amp, and I like how the compressor drives a little bit more volume and level to the amp. And so this is the amp dry. Sounds like this. And the thing I like about this is you can go here and you can choose your mics, but also you go here and you can dial up the room sound. And so I really like the room sound on this. Let me, without it, with it. That to me added something that I really liked. And so that was the dry sound, and I really like, I'll mess around with these settings a ton. I'll mess around sometimes with the input and output compressor before and after, just to get the right response that I'm used to from playing from a real amp. But it didn't have quite enough space to it, and so I added this guy, which is my favorite spring reverb from Softube. Sounds like this. And then again, a little bit of filtering, low and highs, boosting some mids. Just a tiny bit of limiting just to keep things in place. And the mandolin, again, cutting some lows and highs, compressor, and then this is just like the auto-tune, like one of the cheaper versions of auto-tune, and I have it on the most minimal setting just to keep some of the notes in place, because keeping a mandolin in tune is a real pain in the ass. So that's really the majority of the instruments. And again, it's not a lot of tracks. I think it's like 30 tracks together. So the vocals, again, with any song, vocals are always going to be the most important. And this song was a little challenging to get the right feel. I had to sing it a bunch of times. And for me, I'm always concerned much more about tone and delivery than I am about pitch. Pitch, I don't care if it's perfect. I can go in and adjust anything that's not right on, but you can't auto-tune feel into a vocal. And so this is the vocal. I'll just play the first verse. Letting go of what you were never meant to own. I've been thinking about how the way back home keeps getting longer, and I'll try for you if you can just help me remember. Yeah, so I sang this on my Telefunken AR51, which is a lovely, lovely microphone from Telefunken. And it's one of the more expensive mics that I own, and I don't use it all the time. It's a pretty bright mic, and but for more kind of delicate stuff like this, it really sounded great. So again, a little bit of Melodyne, and again, the thing that I like about Melodyne is even like here, like I won't go 100%, and I love how it doesn't mess around with the vibrato. It's very natural. It gives you a ton of control, and so I love it for instruments and for vocals. And then I'm using this guy. This is the Brainworks the Neve channel strip, and I really like the sound of this. The EQ is really great. Just a little bit of filtering, a little bit of EQ, and I'm using their gate here just because the vocal is just a little bit noisy, and so it's without it. Letting go of what you were never meant to own. With it. Letting go of what you were never meant to own. So I'm just pushing a little tiny bit of 10K, tiny bit of 5, a little bit of 1K, pulling out a tiny bit of 240, and then just filtering a little bit here. After that, typically with my vocal chain, it looks something like this. So I'll do a de-esser, an EQ, or no, I'm sorry, a compressor, another de-esser. I tend to have very strong sibilance when I sing. The CQ here, boosting a bunch of mid, a little bit of high, a little bit of the drive knob. This sounds great on vocals. This guy, this is a magic plugin. So this is taking a lot of potentially harsh overtones and just smoothing everything out. And the way that I usually use this is I will listen to the vocal and I'll hit the delta here. Letting go what you never meant to own. You can hear what it's taking out. Been thinking about how. And so it's all, 1K, 3, 4K, 8K. It's kind of just smoothing out all that potential harsh stuff going on. So after that, go to C4. Letting go. And what this is doing is, because the low part of my voice tends to overpower mics a lot of times, so anytime that I hit low notes, you can see it's going to grab it here with the compressor bands. Letting go of what you were never meant to own. I've been thinking about how the way back. And then again, just a little bit of limiting to keep it in your face. And then with the effects, this is it totally dry. Letting go of what you were never meant to own. So I should rename this. It's not a chamber. That is a plate. So here's with the plate. Letting go of what you were never meant to own. And I keep this pretty steady. I don't like a ton of effects on vocals. I like it to be pretty dry, especially with this style of music. And so there's really only one place that I push it up for. And then here on the verse, when the drums come down, I just automate it down a little bit. And then a little bit of the micro shift, just give the vocal a little bit of space and width. Letting go of what you delay. You were never meant to own. Push this up.
I've been thinking about how the way back home keeps getting longer. And
I like what a delay does to give more length to the vocal, and then I'm pushing a little bit into the Sans amp to give it a little bit more saturation. And so that's the vocal, and then I only have a little harmony here on two parts of the song. I'll play that in the second verse.
it was all so new when I met you on that hill in late September. It's a terrible thing.
And I didn't put delay on this because I didn't want it to wash out any part of the harmony. And so this is what the harmony sounds like.
It was all so new when I met you on that hill.
Basically almost identical chain as the main vocal, but just no delay. And so that's the majority of the elements of the song. The only thing that I did do is I like to add different elements for parts that repeat. And so for the hook, we'll just listen to that with the guitar. The first time that you hear it, it's just these two elements. So the low guitar and the mandolin. And then when it comes around the third time, I add in this high octave of the lead. It sounds like this. And it's just kind of tucked in underneath. Yep, that's going to happen a few times. And then at the end, I boost it higher. You can see it's a little bit lower here, a little bit higher here. I like to do that just to have something that's different for parts that repeat, to give you something a little bit different to listen to. And then the only other thing that I wanted to add in this second hook, I'll just play a little part of it. Here's the part.
Oh, I still pray, but not like I used to.
So for this part here, I wanted something more of like, I call these vibe tracks, because these are things that are not going to have a ton of super important information, but it adds like something to the song that's more of like you feel it than you hear it. And I wanted something here, so this is the thing that I added just in this part of the song. And it's got a roto speaker on it. And it's really, really subtle, but you can hear it in this second verse. It comes in halfway through here.
On that hill in late September, it's a terrible thing to wonder where you are, but I still smile. Oh, I still smile. I write it down, sing it out, so the way it felt when I felt everything.
So yeah, I liked that, and I wanted to try to challenge myself to get the song sounding the way that it needed to, with kind of as few tracks as possible. So it's really not a huge session, especially from what I've been used to working in. So that's it. That's really the majority of the song. If you guys have any specific questions, you can leave a comment, and I'd be happy to go into more detail. But yeah, guys, thanks for hanging out with me for a few minutes.